Are you using alcohol to numb the pain? Welcome back to the Secure Husband podcast. Bruce Abbott, certified professional coach and founder of SecureHusband.com, the podcast where I help men start leading with calm strength and truth. One of the toughest questions that I had to ask myself is, am I using alcohol to numb my pain? On my journey, alcohol was my crutch. I was either on or off. Now, there's a lot of guys that be like, yeah, I can have a beer or two, and it's fine. But for me, it was either I had none or I had 10. Why was this? It was because I was trying to numb the pain. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was trying to numb the pain. I was trying to fill this emptiness inside with the alcohol. So if you're struggling right now, because some guys that I talk to have no problem with this, but there's other guys that I talk with and they're like, man, I do this. It's like I just come home and I pound down a 6-pack of beer because it's the only way I can get through this. That's self-abandonment. So I want to talk about that today because it's easy to use alcohol to escape emotional pain. Now, I am not against alcohol. I'm not saying that it's good or bad. I'm saying that for some people, they can drink and it's fine. But if you're using it to escape emotional pain, and I'm not talking about even the rock bottom stories. I'm not talking about the rehab stays or the DUIs. It could be even more subtle. It could be beer or 3 or 6 after work to take the edge off, to be able to stay peaceful in your own home. That bourbon at night, you need that just to get through the evening. But all of a sudden, that one glass turns into the whole bottle of wine. You're doing this as a tool for numbing. You're not doing it as a celebration. You're not pouring a drink because you're enjoying life. You're pouring it because you're trying to escape it. This becomes a coping strategy for emotionally wounded men. It was one I struggled with tremendously, and several of the guys that I work with are going through this right now. Even though alcohol is addictive in nature, there's a physiological addiction. I'm not talking about being addicted to alcohol physiologically. I'm talking about being addicted to the escape, addicted to numbing out, because you're abandoning yourself and you're trying to avoid the pain. We have to stop this pattern of abandoning yourself. We have to start facing the pain with strength. We start taking back control of our emotional core, our emotional life with grace and self-compassion and authenticity, honesty, truth. Because it's not about the alcohol. It is about the escape. And when you stop and you just notice this can be a powerful first step in getting away from the self-abandonment. Again, I'm not making any statements about whether you should or shouldn't drink alcohol. That's a personal decision. But what I am saying is that if you are using it as a crutch, if you are using it to get through another night in this relationship, another moment in this painful situation, be aware of that. Notice, bring awareness to that. I would drink a couple of drinks at night, but I noticed that I had to do that like every day. And when I really stopped and thought about this, why am I doing it? The loneliness, the emptiness, it was just too much. And I became dependent, not really on the alcohol itself, but on the escape that it gave me. And it's an escape from myself. It's an escape from being the man that I want to be. It was an escape from being the parent I want to be. It was an escape from being the husband I want to be. I was using it to silence my voice, to avoid the hard stuff, the tough decisions. Alcohol became a trusted, quiet friend until it didn't. And it was no longer my friend. See, the real problem wasn't I wasn't drinking to feel good. I was drinking to not feel anything. That's self-abandonment. So the first step in the secure husband process is always noticing. Bring awareness. Just notice what you're trying to escape. Why? Why are you drinking? Notice this pain without judgment. So what are you feeling right before you pour that first drink? Just ask yourself this. Be aware of what you're feeling in your body. Do you have any tension in your chest? Is there a feeling of shame? Even failure? Just notice right before you pour that first one. Why? Ask yourself, why? Now, this drink I'm about to pour, what does it say? It's not about connection? Is this about avoidance? Ask yourself those questions. See, for me, the alcohol was helping me escape resentment in my marriage. It was helping me with my disappointment in myself. I would drink because I really felt like I would never get this marriage thing right. I had this deep, unspoken belief subconsciously. I didn't even realize it, but I had this subconscious belief that I wasn't lovable unless I was fun. But being fun on alcohol was hit or miss. So I had to get to a point that before every drink, I had to really just be aware of the emotion that I was feeling. Sometimes it might be out of, woohoo, fun, but that became more and more rare. And it never really became out of joy. It was always out of numbness. It was shame. It was stress, sadness, loneliness. And that was a wake-up call for me because the alcohol was actually making my marriage worse. It was causing me to not connect with myself. I would stay disconnected from myself. But also what it did is I disconnected from everyone else. So once I noticed that I'm just numbing myself, I'm trying to fill an empty place inside, then I was able to make a choice. I was able to lean into this pain instead of escaping it. This takes a lot of courage. I had a tremendously hard time doing this in the beginning. If you're in this situation too, I want you to understand this, and I say this out of love. This is not shame. This is not blame. I'm not saying this to make you feel guilty. You're not drinking because you're weak. You're drinking because you're wounded. That pain you're trying to numb, it's not going to go anywhere until you face it. It will still be there tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And that alcohol is not going to do anything for it. So instead of pouring a drink when the emotion hits, start sitting quietly with the feeling for 5 minutes. Dialogue with your inner child. Go to God in prayer or whatever your belief system is. Journal. Meditate. Name that emotion. Don't try to fix it. Just do something where you lean into it versus trying to escape it. Whatever feels comfortable for you. See, it feels like withdrawal, not from alcohol, but from avoidance. If you have the rage, you have the grief, you have years of unspoken resentment towards your wife, towards yourself, you could feel that ache of never being chosen by her, never being chosen by your parents, not even being chosen by yourself. All of this stuff, when you allow yourself to feel it, lean into the emotion, not escape it, the need to drink starts fading. Now, this takes time and it takes a lot of work. But day by day, little by little, the pain doesn't need to be numbed. You just need to witness it. You need to be self-compassionate. Lean into it. It's that little boy inside who learned to numb instead of feel. Because all of this pain really started way back before you ever met your wife. I've talked about this in every podcast. It goes back to your childhood. If you grow up in a home where emotions are dangerous, if you've got a father that rages, if you've got a mother that shuts down, whatever that circumstance is, you learned early, don't cry, don't speak up, don't make it worse. So you stop feeling. Maybe you escape as a little kid into food, video games, fantasy. Maybe as a teenager, it was pot. You started drinking early. As a man, it becomes more and more. And then you're in performance mode. Always upbeat, always capable, always fine. But deep down, you're terrified that if you actually showed how scared and hurt you were subconsciously, the people that you love and the people that you think love you would disappear. So you have to meet that boy inside, that scared, shut down little boy who's hiding in his room with headphones on to drown out the chaos. And you ask him, hey, little guy, what do you need from me? I'm here for you. You don't have to escape anymore. We can do this. I'm here for you. I'm not going to abandon you anymore. I'm here with love and compassion. And you tell that little boy inside, you're not too much. You don't have to numb this anymore. I'll feel it. We can do this together. I'll feel this with you. That's when you stop abandoning yourself. That's where that desire to go to the bottle, to escape, starts to diminish. And that's where you reach out to that higher power. Anyone who's ever been through Alcoholics Anonymous knows that that's one of the first things in the 12 steps is where you understand that you have no control over this and you have to turn this over to a higher power. And that's where you go to that higher power, God, universe, whatever your belief system is. You talk to that higher power through conversation, through prayer, meditation. You have a dialogue and you find out about unconditional love. You find out about inherent worth. You turn it over to that higher power because you can't control. You lean into that. That's why AA is so powerful. It's why it's one of the most successful, longest running treatments for alcoholism, because what happens is it starts to turn around the self-abandonment. That's why you go through the different steps, making amends, connecting to yourself, no longer trying to numb out, but feel that pain and work through it. It takes tremendous courage. But then you understand why you hide emotion in your relationship. And then from there, you can take loving action. You dialogue with your higher power about what is the next action I take, because action is what you need to do to change. One of the guys that struggles with numbing out in his relationship was talking to me the other day about, I don't share what I'm feeling with my wife anymore. I tried that for years. She'd either shut down or make it about her. So now I just don't say anything. I just come home and I pour a drink. Does that sound familiar if you're in that situation? So you're numbing out. And when you're in a dynamic where your pain isn't held, where that vulnerability is mocked or dismissed or ignored, you will learn to escape. And it's hard when you're in the moment and you feel so lonely to really believe the truth that I don't need my wife to hold space for my pain before I start honoring it yourself. But when you can take a deep breath and embrace that statement as truth, I'll say it again, you don't need your wife to hold space for your pain before you start honoring it yourself. You can lean into it. And when you do, that starts to make a shift. You start healing. You stop outsourcing your healing to someone who can't or won't hold it. You start healing it yourself. And that's freedom. That's leadership. You're leading yourself to peace and joy. And you take full ownership of how you regulate. And you don't do it through guilt or blaming others or shame or blaming yourself. You have to stop blaming the alcohol. You have to stop blaming your wife. Stop blaming your past. You have to own your response to the stress, to the loneliness. So I encourage my guys to do a check-in routine when that impulse hits. So we work on breathing exercises and self-soothing exercises in our coaching. But I also encourage you to name that emotion, name that feeling, put a name to it, and do something physical. Move your body, stretch. I've got one of my clients that every time that he wants to have a drink, he will go in the other room and do like 50 crunches or sit-ups or something like that. I forget what he told me, but he will actually stop when he wants to do that and go do an exercise. That's awesome. Write a truth statement down. I feel blank, but I'm safe. I choose to feel this. I'm not going to escape from it. And you learn to tell yourself, I don't need to numb this. I can feel it and I'll be okay. I can survive this. You don't have to do this perfectly. You just have to stay with yourself. Just simply learn how to bring yourself compassion and self-soothe. And then you don't need the alcohol to regulate anymore. You just need to be present with yourself. And when you do that, you become the man who doesn't escape pain because he knows how to lead himself right through it. In past podcasts, we've talked about courage and just going right through that fear. Again, you don't have to be perfect. Sometimes you still pour a drink now and then. It happens. But it's a choice. It's not a crutch. You're not doing it to escape. You're more emotionally present. You're more connected to your kids. You're more connected to yourself. You're more honest in your marriage, truthful, authentic, more whole. I understand. I was there. I used to drink to disappear. Now I breathe and just stay present because I want to be there. I don't want to escape. That's the man I want to be. That's what this process does. It doesn't shame you for using numbing strategies. It gives you the strength and tools to stop needing them. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to stop leaving yourself behind. It was one of the most powerful things I did for myself. is when I stopped numbing out with alcohol, when I stopped using it as a crutch. Do I still have a drink now and then? Yeah, but I'm not doing it to escape. If you've been escaping instead of leading, you're not broken. You're just wounded, but you don't have to stay there. You can become the man who feels and stays present right there, who speaks truth without needing to escape. You can lead from presence, not avoidance. That's being a secure husband. It's a tough journey, but you can do this, man, one day at a time. I hope this podcast helped you out. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're a regular listener, would you give me a review? It helps other men find this podcast for healing. And if you need accountability, if you need help getting unstuck, visit securehusband.com. Set up a free 30-minute consultation with me. Just a conversation. And I'll see you again on the next Secure Husband podcast.